In a matter of seconds, a country music festival turned tragic, a storm of gunfire raining down upon an innocent crowd.
Ooh, that was October 1st, 2017, after a shooter added a bump stock to all of his 14 semi-automatic rifles and slaughtered 60 people while injuring more than 500 at a country music festival in Las Vegas. The carnage took just 10 minutes. The bump stock helped him unleash 9 rounds per second, killing more people faster. Today, Leonard Leo's conservative Supreme Court majority, led by its most ostentatiously corrupt justice, Clarence Thomas, said that Donald Trump overstepped his authority in 2018 when he had the ATF ban those devices, a ruling he expected that they would make because he didn't really want to ban them. Bump stocks cause a semi-automatic rifle's trigger to buck against the shooter's finger, repeatedly bumping the trigger so the shooter doesn't have to pull it, effectively reloading the gun at the same speed as an automatic rifle. Bump stocks effectively turn guns into machine guns. It is against the law to own a machine gun. Well, it was until today. Thanks to Justice Thomas, Alito, Roberts, Kavanaugh, Gorsuch, and Barrett, it is now essentially legal for Americans to own machine guns. Thomas used some twisted logic and ridiculous diagrams to explain that bump stocks do not turn semi-automatic rifles into machine guns, even though they clearly do, a point that Justice Sonia Sotomayor made in her dissent on behalf of the minority. She wrote, "Today, the court puts bump stocks back into civilian hands. To do so, it casts aside Congress's definition of machine gun. When I see a bird that walks like a duck, swims like a duck, and quacks like a duck, I call that bird a duck." A bump stock equipped semi-automatic rifle fires automatically more than one shot without manual reloading by a single function of the trigger. Because I, like Congress, call that a machine gun, I respectfully dissent. President Biden, reacting to the ruling, issued a statement saying, quote, "Weapons of war have no place on the streets of a civil society." Today, 6 justices put those weapons of war back on the streets. Even more terrifying, this court has yet to issue a decision on whether domestic abusers can be banned from owning guns or whether Trump as president would have absolute immunity to order assassinations. While today, they've made the most lethal implements of murder, mass murder, and assassination more accessible. Joining me now is Fred Guttenberg, whose daughter Jamie was killed in the Parkland, Florida shooting in 2018. He is the co-author of American Carnage, Shattering the Myths that Fuel Gun Violence. Fred, I hate that I call upon you and only see you in these circumstances, but I just want to let you respond to what the court did today.
So today, demolition crews started tearing down the building that my daughter was killed in, my daughter and 16 others. Today was the day they started tearing it down. And I keep thinking about that building, Sandy Hook, Uvalde, all of these instances of gun violence, that because of today's decision, we won't be talking about 15 killed or 20 killed. We'll be talking about 100 killed or 200 killed. Now, Joy, let me be very clear about what the Supreme Court is doing. 20 years ago, when my daughter was born, AR-15 sales were maybe 2% of all guns sold. In 2008, the Heller decision defined a phrase called common use. The industry went on a manufacturing binge to put these weapons into common use. That's 16 years ago. Following that, they developed this technology to turn them into machine guns. And today, the Supreme Court said, have at it. More people are going to die. Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas's signature will be on their death certificate. For whatever reason, that man hates everything that makes America great. And this is going to be so deadly. So I just want to say one more thing. There's a really simple solution. Every single person watching the show today needs to check your voter registration. Go online right now and do it. Check your voter registration. Make sure you vote in November. Actually, make sure you vote early if you can, because what this Supreme Court did is gave MAGA the tools to potentially turn that time leading into the election into one where they're going to threaten this kind of violence.
Yeah.
Vote early, vote absentee if you can. Check your voter registration today.
Yeah, and I mean, it is such a great point, because the only power we have against the Supreme Court is the ballot. I mean, your beautiful daughter was killed along with, as you said, 16 of her friends. That isn't even in the top 5 deadliest shootings that we've had in this country. No. The one in Las Vegas was #1 at 60 because this man had what we used to call a street sweeper. He had effectively a machine gun. Vegas, Orlando, 49 people in Pulse nightclub. We just celebrated the sad anniversary of that. Blacksburg, Virginia, 32. Newtown, Connecticut, 26. Sutherland Springs, Texas, 26. That, as you said, doesn't even get to those babies in Connecticut who just graduated from high school, by the way. They're now Sandy Hook. Those kids. That doesn't even get to them. That doesn't even get to Uvalde. That was like 24 kids. Take each of those shootings in which normally people were using AR-15s, add a bump stock, and those 17 kids at Parkland are 30 or 40 or 50 kids. You take a bump stock and add it to those weapons in each of those cases, and it's 50 kids, 60 kids. Is that what
hundreds.
they want? Hundreds. You can kill hundreds of people in 30 seconds. Go, please.
Back in March, I walked Vice President Harris and the Office of Gun Violence Prevention team through the school where my daughter was killed. It was still an untouched crime scene with the blood, the shards of glass, coursework on the desks. We walked them through, and she knew beforehand what she was going to walk through because I made sure of it. But she did it because she needed to see what this level of carnage looked like and what could have been done to stop it. And she also needed to see, I'll give you an example. On the 3rd floor, kids got locked out of classrooms. And when he went to reload, a bunch of kids were saved. Imagine, okay, if he had high-capacity magazines and a bump stock.
Yeah.
We're not talking about a few more. Right. We're talking about hundreds of kids. We're talking about people in Walmart where you have these AR-15s that have shown up multiple times. We're talking about movie theaters. We're talking about places of worship. It's no longer 15 dead. It's 150.
Yeah.
And it is insanity.
I spoke today with the person I go to, my go-to expert on firearms, who's a big Second Amendment guy, very, very pro-Second Amendment, who agreed with me that one of the biggest groups probably cheering for this are gangs. Because you have in places like Florida, people who use AK-47s in gangs. Yeah. Now you don't have to worry about getting an illegal AK-47. You can buy a legally acquired AR-15, put bump stocks on it, and now you've got the effectively Uzis that can be used by the worst people. It's making us, what we see going on in Haiti could be coming here.
In places like Florida, it's now also, you add that and permitless carry. Or other states, you add on top of that open carry.
Yes.
And then you add on top of that this MAGA crowd talking about Second Amendment solutions if they don't get the election result that they want.
That's right.
Supreme Court Justice Thomas and Alito have made clear where their allegiances stand. And it is with this insurrectionist crowd. I mean, they've made it clear. I don't know how much more they need to tell us for us to know that. And Supreme Court Justice Thomas, he wrote this opinion. His wife was part of the January 6th insurrectionist crowd. They are planning this stuff. I'll say it again. I can scream and yell, or I can beg. I'm going to beg everyone, check your voter registration tonight and make sure you vote.
Amen. Fred Guttenberg, thank you so much. You said it very clearly, and we need clarity in this moment. Thank you. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
But we begin tonight by wishing everyone a happy Flag Day, which commemorates the day in 1777 when the Continental Congress approved the Stars and Stripes as the symbol for an emerging, if imperfect, nation. And as there has been some confusion recently, the American Legion wanted to clarify that the flag should never be displayed with the Union down, except as a symbol of dire distress in instance of extreme danger to life or property. In other words, never upside down. If someone wouldn't mind sharing that info with the Alitos, we'd greatly appreciate it. Just be careful, Martha Ann can come in a little Karen hot. Perhaps we should have checked to see if we spotted any upside-down distress flags on Capitol Hill yesterday, since the display we saw from congressional Republicans and Donald Trump cannot be described as anything less than a signal of dire distress. Trump has long admired the world's most authoritarian leaders and the forced sycophancy they demand from their people. We've heard it time and again from Trump, like his adulation for Kim Jong-un's hold over the citizens of North Korea.
He's the head of a country, and I mean, he's the strong head. Don't let anyone think anything different. Right. He speaks and his people sit up at attention. I want my people to do the same.
And perhaps Trump's birthday wish came true, because that is exactly what he got from Republicans yesterday on his first visit back to the scene of the crime, where his MAGA army let loose on the very same people in the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021. It wasn't enough that nearly every Republican senator showed up for yesterday's meeting, including Mitch McConnell and, surprise, surprise, Mitt Romney. But they clearly deemed it necessary to continue to shower praise and applause on Trump even after he left the room. We see you, Ted Cruz. Did you forget the insults Trump made against your wife and your father? Why were you clapping so vigorously there? I guess they were all afraid that Trump would find out who stopped clapping first and hoped that he'd learn who kept it going. What makes these scenes so much more nauseating is that they were on bended knee for the same person who caused them to have to run for their lives on January 6th. Back then, it even sounded like they were starting to learn their lesson when a few of them came out and said things like this.
All I can say is count me out. Enough is enough. If you're a conservative, this is the most offensive concept in the world, that a single person could disenfranchise 155 million people.
What happened here today was an insurrection incited by the President of the United States.
There's no question, none, that President Trump is practically and morally responsible for provoking the events of the day. No question about it.
But, of course, that was only a momentary glitch in the matrix. They soon reverted to their natural cowardice and raw ambition. And let's not forget that before they were willing to drink the Kool-Aid, we heard from some of these same people what they really felt about Trump back in 2016.
I think he's a kook. I think he's crazy. I think he's unfit for office.
There is no way we are going to allow a con artist to take over the conservative movement, and Donald Trump is a con artist.
This man is a pathological liar. He doesn't know the difference between truth and lies. He lies practically every word that comes out of his mouth.
Those were the days. Oh, and Trump's attacks on all of them were just as bad, if not worse. But yesterday, we saw how Trump has trained his party to stay in line and obey in ways he previously could only dream of. While those Republicans appeared quick to forget the past, it is worth noting to each and every one of them that while they were throwing their impromptu 78th birthday party for a felon, it's likely that some of the same Capitol Police officers who were providing security yesterday for Trump and for them could have easily also have been attacked by his insurrectionists on January 6th. Attacks that included being bludgeoned with the very U.S. flag that we honor on Flag Day. Joining me now is Michael Steele, former RNC chair and co-host of The Weekend on MSNBC. Dean Obeidallah, MSNBC columnist and host of The Dean Obeidallah Show on SiriusXM. And David K. Johnston, distinguished visiting lecturer at Syracuse University College of Law and author of The Big Cheat, How Donald Trump Fleeced America and Enriched Himself and His Family. Michael Steele, I have to go to you first. You used to be the chairman of this party, and I just want to know how it felt for you watching these people, including, I'm shocked to say, Mitt Romney, maybe not shocked, maybe, not so surprised, debase themselves for Donald Trump after he sacked the Capitol and made them all run for their lives.
It's numbing in many respects, because after so many offenses and so many lies and so many betrayals by the leadership of my party, in one sense you do become numb. But that has to be a momentary feeling. You have to then decide whether or not you're going to engage them to help them understand how wrong they are and how bad not only Donald Trump is for the party, but has been for our country. And so, yeah, in many respects, Joy, you sit there and you watch them all saddle up and sing happy birthday, you know, to the 34-count felon, and you know, embrace the flag and law and order and all of that. But it's all a lie, because their actions betray all of that. Their actions betray them, and the actions show the rest of us exactly who they are in this moment. And so this is the narrative, and this is the visual that's going into this election. And it's important for the American people to understand and appreciate that these individuals are, in many respects, an extension of all of us. They represent all of us, U.S. senators, Congress members, governors, and it becomes on this day a reflection that we have to take seriously that this is not who we are, and this is not normal.
Let me tell you what Liz Cheney had to say. Liz Cheney, you know, she saved her greatest scorn for Mitch McConnell, who did say on January 6, 2021, that Donald Trump was morally responsible for the sacking of the Capitol and for the coup attempt on that day. And she said, you know, Mitch McConnell knows Trump provoked the violent attack on our Capitol and then watched television happily as his mob brutally beat police officers and hunted the vice president. He knows Trump refused for hours to tell his mob to leave, and even then, with police officers bleeding, he kept repeating his election lies and praising the criminals. He knows Trump committed a disgraceful dereliction of duty and is a danger to our republic. Trump and his collaborators will be defeated, and history will remember the shame of people like Mitch McConnell who enabled them. Dean, my friend, you wrote a piece for NBC calling these people cowards. I think it's an apropos term, but I'm going to let you say more.
Sure. I mean, apparently yesterday was Bring a Terrorist to Work Day, because that's the reality. You know what so angers me, Joy, is that January 6th was an act of domestic terrorism. That's what Christopher Wray, the FBI director, testified before the House and the Senate. Those Republicans know. Ted Cruz even leaked it out once, saying it was an act of terrorism. They had to apologize for telling the truth. They welcomed a terrorist to the Capitol yesterday. This would be like bringing bin Laden to ground zero 3.5 years after 9/11. And they went there, a man who now with 34 convicted felonies, he can't go to 37 countries, but he can go to the Capitol where they cheer him. They sang songs. They gave him the baseball from the congressional baseball game the day before. And to me, Joy, as you noted, these people ran for their lives. Josh Hawley ran like a cartoon character. Fling, and there they are sucking up to him, singing songs to him. And to Michael's point, this is who they are. It's not like we go like, this is not who we are. No, this is who they are. And today's GOP is how democracies die. And that's historically accurate. It is not a Democratic Party. It's not a political party that we know it. It is a fascist movement that's anti-democratic, that will use violence to acquire power and retain power. And look what's coming to now in November 5th. Who knows what they have in store for us? And the danger part is that GOP will all line up no matter what Trump asks of them. Yeah. That's what makes them so dangerous.
Right. We know from what they did, David, that they will. Even though let me play for you just to remind everyone, Donald Trump has no respect for any of these people, no more respect than any of us really owe them at this point. But let's just remind ourselves how Donald Trump has spoken about them.
One of the problems with Ted Cruz is everybody hates him. I mean, he's such a nasty guy. Everybody hates him. He can't talk. Let me tell you, the real con artist, excuse me. The real con artist is Senator Marco Rubio. I backed Mitt Romney. I backed him. You can see how loyal he is. He was begging for my endorsement. I could have said, Mitt, drop to your knees. He would have dropped to his knees. He was begging. And he walks like a penguin onto the stage. You ever seen? Like a penguin.
And David K. Johnston, the response of Republicans to that kind of contempt, which he also has for his voters, let's just be clear, has been Mitt Romney debasing himself at a dinner, eating steak and ketchup with Donald Trump, trying to become Secretary of State. It's been a Republican named Greg Steube, whose district includes Sarasota County, introducing legislation to rename the United States coastal waters after Donald Trump, naming our coastal waters after Trump. It's been House Republicans proposing to rename Dulles Airport Donald Trump International Airport. I could go on.